Hi there, welcome to this look at Doctor Who Demon Quest. My name is Michael Stevens and I was the project editor on this set, and I was also, back in the day, the script editor and executive producer of the audio production. So we're going to take a look inside the set and see just what you get. But before that, let's just remind ourselves of what Demon Quest is. It's a full cast audio drama, an original story production, and it comprises 5 stories. Each one is written by Paul Mars, and each one stars Tom Baker as the Doctor, with Richard Franklin as Mike Yates and Susan Jameson as Mrs. Wibsey, the Doctor's redoubtable housekeeper. The production was made in 2010, and it was the follow-up to Hornet's Nest, which you may be aware was also published in a vinyl box set last year. Hornet's Nest marked the first time Tom Baker had returned to the role of the Doctor since he left the TV series in the early 1980s. So it was really big news when he returned to the role for BBC Audio. And after the success of Hornet's Nest, we basically got the whole team back together for a second series, and that was Demon Quest. So that's a little bit about the audio that you will hear when you put the discs on the turntable, but let's take a look at the set itself. First of all, we must note this rather wonderful O-ring, which is the trade term for this sleeve, external sleeve around the rigid box. And as we lift it up, you can see, keep watching the demon's eyes, there you go, see they are cut through to show the glow of the red box underneath, which is rather neat, isn't it? And if we just look on the reverse there, you have details of the 5 stories with their titles, and each one has a little icon representing it. So that's the O-ring. Underneath is a lovely, sturdy, very heavy, rigid box with a lift-off lid. Let's just take a look at the front there. You can see the demon unfurling in all his evil, and on the back there he is again, and it's rather as if he's sort of burning through the base of the box. So that's the box itself. Let us have a look inside, and the first thing that greets us is this rather splendid art print of the Doctor, played of course by Tom Baker, and Tom Baker has hand signed personally each one of these prints. It's 12 by 12 inches square, so it's the perfect size for framing and putting on your wall for all to see. The previous set, Hornet's Nest, also featured a hand-signed art print in a different colour variation, and then the subsequent series, Serpent Crest, will complete that trio of personally hand-signed art prints from Tom Baker, and lined up together they will look quite superb. So that's the print. Now the next thing we see is this, which is a 16-page full-colour illustrated booklet. It's subtitled, or titled rather, The Doctor's Journal, and that's because that's exactly what it is. These are the notes that the Doctor has made during the course of this adventure, notes to himself to help him in his battle against the demon. And you can just see down there he's also helpfully put a little note saying warning, spoilers. So we'll try not to encounter too many of those as we just take a look through. Each story is allocated 4 pages in the booklet, so 2 double page spreads, and it's absolutely crammed with the Doctor's handwritten notes about the places he visits during the adventures, the people he meets, notes on adversaries, possible weaknesses, possible strengths, and also these sort of faux artifacts. For instance, that is the page of a history book detailing an archaeological dig in England a few years ago, and we can see the mosaic that they uncovered, and at its centre we can clearly see that that is an image of the Doctor. There it is again in full colour. So that's just one of the mysteries in these stories. I should say that everything to do with this box set has been designed by Oink Creative, and they have done a truly wonderful job of bringing the stories to life, and it's really an all new visualization of the series. So here's the second story, The Demon of Paris, and that famous poster of Aristide Bruant by Toulouse-Lautrec, looking just a little bit different there. So rather more familiar figure. There's the original, and there's the one that looks as if it's been heavily doctored. So that is the second story, and the third story is called A Shard of Ice, and that is about a very chilling villainess and the poor author that she enslaves, basically. Played indeed by the author is played by Samuel West, and the villainess is played by Jan Francis. The fourth story, Starfall, takes us back to 1970s New York, and that is an absolute wonderful, literally a comic caper, because Miss Starfall is a comic book heroine, and the Doctor and Mike are transported into the streets of 1970s New York in order to face the demon in its latest incarnation. And finally, Sepulchre. That is the culmination of this series. And here we see poor Mrs. Wibsey falling through time and space. Where is she headed? That's what Mike and the Doctor have to find out. So it's the audio is teeming with famous faces, or rather famous voices, throughout the cast, and there's some terrific drama and indeed some terrific humour within it. So that's your booklet. Now let's just take a look at the records, and the first thing I will do is just upend them like that. And there is LP1, that lovely mosaic drawing. On the back of each LP we have full cast and credits for each of the productions, and then inside the vinyl of this set is red and black, and we start with the black. So that's standard black vinyl. Side A has the character portrait, and side B has the disc details. And if we look at disc 2, which is fronted by that rather lovely bust of the Emperor Claudius, we find that this vinyl is glorious, transparent red. There's Claudius, and there are the disc details. So a lovely sort of alternating black and red colour scheme going on, and each disc is 140 gram weight vinyl. And there's the portrait of the Doctor, disc 3. La Concierge, she's a key figure in the second story, The Demon of Paris. She's on that one. And then this is A Shard of Ice, So this is rather interesting. You can put these two together, and you see, first of all, the villainess as we are first introduced to her, but then underneath there is the demon breaking through. That's quite nice. Also very, very nice is the first LP of Miss Starfall. As I mentioned, it's like a comic book story, and there is the imagining of the Miss Starfall comic, and there's the Doctor, Mike and Mrs. Wibbsey emerging from the TARDIS. And there is the second disc of Starfall. And finally, the first disc of Sepulchre. There is Mrs. Wibbsey, as I say, falling through time. And there is the final disc. And this is a locket which has particular significance in that final story. And that one finishes on red vinyl. So there you have it, Doctor Who Demon Quest, and a lot of wonderful, wonderful listening in there. And you've got your LPs, you've got your booklet, you have the signed print from Tom Baker, encapsulated in this rigid box with a lift-off lid, and then topped off with the O-ring.